How's it going, guys? And we're here to take a look at Pokemon Sword and Shield Isle of Armor, which is the DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I did a game review of Pokemon Sword and Shield last year, late last year, around December or so. So if you want to go and see what I thought about the game overall, the main story, go check out that review. It's well worth your time. But for everyone else, here's my review of the DLC that just came out. So this is a $30 DLC. You're getting two parts to it. Right now you get Isle of Armor. Later this year, in December most likely, we're going to get Crown Tundra. So you can't purchase these separately. You can't do $15 and $15. You got to pay $30 up front for what they're giving you now and what they're going to give you later down the line. I'm not so sure how I feel about that, how they're kind of, just forcing you to get all the DLC when it's really just two separate DLC packages there, but you got to get both. And $30 is pretty expensive. I never remember $30 DLC really for anything. You would accumulate maybe $30 if you continuously did little updates for games, like the games that require a lot of little different DLCs, a lot of AAA titles. So Pokemon is trying its hand at it, and because I'm not used to doing this with Pokemon, it feels weird, and especially due to the fact that this game actually contains 200 Pokemon that weren't featured in the main game, which kind of makes me and a lot of others, because this is a very controversial DLC, feel very cheated. Like, why wasn't that in the main game? This was a huge talking point. And yes, people kind of did blow it out of proportion because it is a game after all. But when you kind of see a $30 price tag slapped onto something that could have really easily been added into the main game, it really looks greedy. It really seems like a dirty tactic. But with all that aside, guys, let's dive right in and take a look at what Isle of Armor has to offer. Hope you guys all enjoy the review. So I turn on my game for the first time in 6 months, and boom! I just all of a sudden got a pass to the Isle of Armor. Just like that. No explanation given, no backstory to this. It's just in your possession, instantaneously. So they kind of just give you this pass, and it's kind of like nudge, nudge. Hey, why don't you go check out this island, right? It's kind of like, well, who gave me this pass? Did it just drop out of the sky? Did I find it on the floor? No. I just literally turned my game back on and I instantly had this pass. I mean, come on. Could I maybe meet a person? Could maybe somebody drop the pass and you see it and, maybe you're not in time to give it back to the person? Like, just some sort of explanation. I know it sounds like a nitpick, but I just thought it's weird. It's kind of like, well, here you go. And then the story kind of just falls into your lap from there. So when we get the station to head over to the island, we run into a weird looking dude by the name of Avery. And this guy is flamboyant as hell. He's flashy. He's got an extravagant attire on. He's got a top hat. And he claims to have psychic abilities. Then we take a flying taxi over to the island, and you meet this Yahoo at the station, and he's supposed to go to the dojo, but he's scared of Avery waiting outside, and when he sees Avery coming, he runs away in absolute terror. And then Avery comes in and sees you and thinks that you're supposed to be the person that he's supposed to escort to the dojo. So he challenges you to a Pokemon battle, and after you whoop him, he realizes that he can't have someone as powerful as you training at the dojo. He's jealous, so he makes an excuse that you're not good enough, and he runs off. But you follow him to the dojo, he gets all nervous, and you get introduced to Honey and Mustard. Yes, that's what they're called. Mustard being the leader of the dojo, the sensei, if you will, and Honey being his wife. So you have a battle with Mustard, And then you get to put on some fancy new duds, and I really like these clothes. I like the uniform that you get. I like the yellow robe and the samurai bun that you wear in your hair. This was a pretty awesome look. I kept this for the entire journey. I just really like this look on the protagonist. I think it's just a nice change. You know, after wearing just such casual clothes, you get to wear this awesome, you know, martial arts style outfit. So you're at the dojo and you go on 3 trials. You have to catch 3 extremely fast slowpoke, which is a pretty hilarious idea. You get to pick some mushrooms, and for the 3rd and final test, you have to go 1-on-1 with Avery once again. And after you beat Avery, he apologizes for being such a jerk to you. But that's about it. After that, you know, that's all he was. He was just basically a guy that was jealous of your ability. He didn't want to be upstaged by you at the dojo. And that's all we really learn about Avery. All is forgiven, and then he's just basically an NPC for the rest of the adventure. Very disappointing. I mean, there's not a lot of layers compared to what we saw with Bede in the main storyline. You know, there's not a lot here, and it's kind of disappointing. You know, this guy has such an extravagant appearance. You'd kind of expect them to flesh his character out a bit more, but he's really a very shallow character that doesn't really have a whole lot to him, and he ends up falling short of being a fully developed character. And then after that, you get in position of the quote-unquote armor of the dojo, and that is Kubfu, a Pokemon that is a fighting type. And some people I have listened here on YouTube have mixed opinions about this Pokemon, but I like him, and he's got a good moveset. I like a lot of the moves that he learns. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Kubfu in just 1 second. First, I want to talk about the most appealing feature of the DLC, and that's the brand new open world area. And, you know, you could go off the beaten path if you want. You could explore. There is a lot of ocean. It's very ocean focused. There's a forest. There's wetlands, you know, kind of like a marsh land, swamp land kind of area. And you get to explore. You get to go way out onto the ocean. Like, you get to travel pretty far. It feels way more expansive than the regular map. And I hear people saying that the, you know, wild area was pretty small in Pokemon Sword and Shield, but it really wasn't. But this is definitely better. I enjoy this more. And there's some great views, you know, here. You get to, you know, take a look at this great open world from all different vantage points. There's caves that you could go into. And I love when you look out at the water, you see a giant whale lord. And then when you swim out on your bike to go see the whale lord, you know, it's awesome. And it's totally to scale. He's absolutely massive. And, you know, there's times like these where you really see just how far the Pokemon games have come. Remember when you used to approach legendaries and they were just about the same exact size of the sprite of the character, you know, of the protagonist? So this was really an awe-inspiring sight to behold, and I really like this, even though you could call it a small little detail, but it's a very memorable moment. And even though they should have been there in the main game to begin with, and we shouldn't have to have DLC for this, it was great to have a lot of the returning favorites out of that 200 added Pokemon that they put in. It was great to see Abra again. You've got Chansey in there, Scyther. There's a number of very memorable Pokemon from both the Kanto and Johto region, among others, and a lot of them are the big-time favorites, the really in-demand ones. So that was really great to see. Though it's controversial, I am happy to finally see more familiar faces in this DLC. Okay, so now it's time to talk about Kubfu. Now, this is the point where I have to call BS on a lot of YouTubers and people who reviewed the DLC. Because here's the thing. Once you get Kung Fu, you're supposed to take him to one of two towers. You can either take him to the Tower of Water or the Tower of Darkness. And here's where things get a little bit confusing to me when it comes to how people are reviewing this game. How exactly are you training Kung Fu for the tower within that 2-hour time frame that you gave? Because, see, the story is not over until you train Kung Fu to at least level 70. Because there is no way you are defeating Mustard, who, surprise, is basically like the final boss of this game. So you have to train him up. Even when you try going to the Tower of Darkness, they tell you, you gotta bring Kung Fu alone. And the training should be pretty easy if you train him up to level 70. And, you know, wink wink, nudge nudge, that means that you have to, because who does Mustard have? He has Kung Fu as well, another Kung Fu. And you have to face off Kung Fu to Kung Fu. And if you don't have a level 70 at least, first of all, if you don't like give any supplements to Kung Fu, you're gonna have Mustard's Kung Fu striking first. And this is basically a 2-hit battle. Like, I noticed one of the most powerful moves that you could use, which is close combat. And you can't use that one first, because if you do that, it drops your defense, making you extremely weak, and you can't take the 2 hits that you need to. So you need to use Dynamic Punch or another move. Now, level 70 is pretty high, considering that you get Kung Fu at level 10. But luckily, the grind goes pretty fast, because what I did is just face off against an ungodly amount of Wild Chansey. They give out the most experience points, I noticed. So, take it from me, if you want to have an easier time leveling him up, I would choose this method. And what's the reason why you're bringing Kung Fu to these towers is to evolve him. And I gotta say, I really love Kung Fu's evolution of Urshifu. Now, say what you will, I went with the Tower of Darkness, so Urshifu ended up being a dark fighting type. If you choose the Tower of Water, he's going to turn out to be a dark water type. So, you know, you go with your preference. I just thought, since, you know, I already had Vaporeon on my team, why not make a dark type out of him as well, since I don't have that typing. So, you know, I had a Vanillix in my team, so I ended up taking him out. That's the thing, you know, if you want to have, like, you know, you've been with your 6 Pokemon for a long time, and, you know, like I did, I didn't even really change my team during the main story. So it was kind of heartbreaking to have to, you know, put him to the side, but I had to. And Urshifu just looks too freaking sweet. I mean, this is a killer design. You could say what you want about Kung Fu and say that, okay, you know, there's some other bear Pokemon, you know, why did we need another bear Pokemon? You know, there's Teddy Ursa and all that. But, you know, Urshifu is pretty awesome looking, I have to say. And, you know, a lot of his battle animations just look just too cool for school, I have to say. So, you know, this is a pretty lengthy process. Training a Pokemon. Yes, there's a lot of, you know, higher level Pokemon on the island. But, you know, Kung Fu is not exactly that high in the defense. So he's kind of like a glass cannon. He hits pretty hard, but not hard enough, because he's still, you know, a stage 1, you know, so he's pre-evolution. And that's kind of the challenge here. You know, you have to really work with Kung Fu. As a matter of fact, you could have Kung Fu follow you around among all the other Pokemon that you have in your party, as long as you put them at the top of your party list. And this is a great way to have this feature return, because you're bonding with this Pokemon. He's got to be your best friend. You have to take him sightseeing with you, and you're gonna have him first in your party when you're trying to level him up. So it's very fitting to have him follow you around on the island. I'm not sure why this is always such an on-again, off-again feature in the Pokemon series. Most people seem to enjoy this feature because it's definitely a callback to the anime with Ash and Pikachu. To have your Pokemon follow you around. So, I don't know why, they had this in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, but they didn't have it in the main story of Sword and Shield, but it's back again here. I don't know why this is just not a consistent feature. If you don't want it, you should be able to turn it off. If you do want it, you should be able to have it. Is it really that complicated of a feature to implement when it's already been in previous games, including the handhelds? Now, after you evolve Kubfu into Urshifu, you meet up with your friendly rival Hop, and you guys go on a journey to find the missing ingredients to the Max Soup, which is something that can be used to Gigantamax your Pokemon. And you need special ingredients so you could Gigantamax your Urshifu. So you guys will find the ingredients, and once you do, you can then Gigantamax Urshifu, and he'll get his special form. After that, you will have a final battle with Mustard, and you guys will have a 6-on-6 war. It's a pretty challenging battle, but you can make it through it. And that's about it. After that, the game basically ends. And there's more things that you could do. Like there's this little fun side mission where this guy is missing Diglett. And around the Isle of Armor, you will find 150 Diglett. And this is a little cute and little charming side quest. You'll find the 3 little hairs of the Alolan Diglett sticking out of the ground. You go up to them, and then you send them back to their master. The other thing that I really have to say is that, they're pretty challenging to find. They really blend in with the environment. So it was very challenging. I didn't even really attempt to find them all. I kind of did this 50-50. I looked around certain areas, but it's a pretty intimidating side quest. But you'll actually get rewarded with Pokemon. Yes, this guy will actually give you free Pokemon for returning 10 Diglett. And so he'll give it to you. He'll give you Pokemon in increments of 10 Diglett. The other thing that was really funny about the Isle of Armor is there's items everywhere. I don't know who's been littering on this island, but there's items all over the place, and it's a bit overwhelming. Some of this stuff is kind of useless to me. I don't really even use half of the stuff that I find on the ground. But it is funny. It's kind of like a bonus land of sorts, you get all this extra stuff. But I think they kind of went a little bit overboard. There's just so many things around. It's ridiculous. It almost looks like a garbage dump. You see things sparkling all over the floor, and it's nice that they included all these items. And I guess they wanted to reward you for spending the $30, but it's really an excessive amount of items. So overall, do I recommend this DLC? Well, I would say yes. I think, when you consider it's $15 a piece, you have no choice but to pay $30. But once you factor in that you're paying $15 for one DLC, and you're kind of doing a down payment on Crown Tundra, so it's worth it. I would say to go for it. If you are not that crazy about Sword and Shield for whatever reason, I think you may like what this game has to offer. I think they kind of went the extra mile when it comes to designing the wild area. And if you kind of like an ocean setting, I think that you'll enjoy it. But, you know, it's kind of really hard to say, like, if you'll like it or not. It's kind of, you know, you'll have to take the plunge. I think that it's worth it. I think there's a lot of game to be had here. And for an expansion, this is definitely worth it. At least it is to me. So, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the review. I hope that I, you know, helped you make your decision if you were struggling whether to download the DLC or not. And if I did, then I've done my job. And guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons. And guys, I'll see you next time.